Senator Frank Blas Jr., candidate to Congress on the Republican side. Senator, of course, we're talking about, of course, the report that needed to be submitted wasn't there. They finally found it. Oops, it was there. But also, you got to reply back that after they found it, that it was now it's a different reason why it wasn't submitted to Congress, because now they're awaiting Hawaii's, I guess, Hawaii's report.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? The report is due on the 1st of May. Okay.
Yeah. Not next May.
Not this May. It was due.
May.
It was due on the 1st
Okay.
of May. You know, Jess, and so, okay, great. You're waiting for the report. Get it done. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
let's move. It really pains me that since this law had been in place since 2004,
Mm-hmm.
and that report was due on May 1st of every year since 2004, there's only been one report submitted to Congress by the Interior. One report.
By the Interior?
By the Interior. And so just, you know, I think that this has got nothing to do with partisanships. People have said, you know, you're being very critical with the Obama administration because you're Republican and he's Democrat. I was just as critical with the Bush administration.
Yes, you were.
You and I served in the legislature when I was just as critical with them. It is not a Republican or Democrat thing. This is a people of Guam thing. And, you know, it pains me as well that as many times as I brought this up, and the value that this report provides to Congress on being able to address, and first off to recognize what these concerns are, and to address the concerns, that our representation has not been as assertive as we would hope that, that she was in being able to get this report.
Well, what gets me is I had listened to the, I guess it's the annual State of the Congress delivered by our delegate. And at one point, actually, she alluded to, of course, your constant, your pursuit of the money that's owed to us. I think it was $500 million at the time. I don't know where it's at this point.
$540 million.
$540 million. Yeah, that's $500 million, over $500 million. Basically, she alluded to your, you know, your constant pursuit of that, saying, "Hey, let's get real. Let's, you know, they're not just going to hand us a check." I'm saying, well, wait a minute, because when Obama first came in, he handed all these checks out as stimulus, not money owed, but monies to stimulate different economies. We got some of that. Now, can't we? Why is it that we're finding ways how Congress cannot do things? Why can't we find ways that Congress can do it and possibly do it? We know they're in tight financial constraints as well, but there's got to be ways and mechanisms, Senator, that can offset some of what is owed.
You said the magic word, offsets. I recognize, you know, that the national discussion is having to deal with the deficit. You know, one of the things that I want to make sure is, first off, that you recognize that this part of the national deficit is the money that's owed to the people of Guam. And as we reduce and we find ways to be able to reduce that deficit and find ways to reduce the amounts that is owed, let's look at the many different ways that this cat can be this cat can be skinned. There are offsets that can be provided. We pay $250,000 a month to the Department of Justice for housing our off-island prisoners. Can we look at being able to offset that? You know, there's about $1.4 or $1.5 million that we're still going to have to pay for overpayment of Section 30. Can we look at being able to offset that? There are grants, there are cost-sharing programs that we have with the federal government. Is there a way that we can increase in as far as what the federal share would be to offset the amounts that we have to pay in as far as our cost share? Many ways to be able to do this. If we're able to take the $1.4 million that we have to pay in the overpayment of Section 30, not pay the Section 30, reduce the amounts that you owe to us, we can use that money, that $1.4 million, to make improvements where it's necessary and in our efficiencies. It serves two purposes. We say we don't have to pay, they don't have to pay, it's basically even. You do little things like that and you'll be able to chip away at it. I recognize that, you know.
Could we also not try to offset maybe, you know, this, I mean, I know the governor had formally requested for an extension of this era funding so DOE can really get its act together, taking them 2 years, and hopefully Superintendent John Fernandez can, you know, he's on the right path of doing that. But couldn't we also try to offset that? I mean, we won't know unless we ask.
And that's right, and see, that's the whole thing. this is where it goes back to the representation I want to provide to the people of Guam. If we don't ask, we won't know. Okay?
Yeah.
And so we have to ask. We have to make those inquiries. We have to go and knock on those doors. We have to have those conversations. These are things that haven't been happening.
Yeah.
This is what I would need. I'm going to do. I want to do as Guam's representative. Is going to have these conversations. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to have to speak to John Boehner, to Nancy Pelosi, and to those other individuals just to have a photograph taken with them. I'll speak to their senior staff. I'll speak to the individuals who do the grunt work. Find out what those issues are. You and I both know how it works.
Sure, absolutely.
When we work, as we work in the legislature, a lot of the work and the research is done by staff. We come and we make the decisions based on that.
That's right.
So if we can get to the staff and we can talk to have a discussion, not with their staff on the Hill, but in the executive branches, and what the issues are, how we can maneuver around these things so that we can get these things done, then that becomes a better voice, a better opportunity to represent the people of Guam.
No, I totally agree with you. Again, as we're trying to find money here, I mean, one of the things, again, that's starting, and you're going to be dealing with, is of this next budget cycle, the 2013 budget, inclusive in that, you're going to see an additional $4 million for the third-party fiduciary that had to be in place. Now, again, it's been a Guam's fault, but can we ask and say, hey, in lieu of this, can we do some offsets? I mean,
and
we got to chip away at this thing.
You know, just interestingly enough, the National Defense Authorization Act 2 years back provided the mechanism.
Listen,
okay, if people says offsets can't be done, Congress provided that. Remember, there was a whole discussion about using compact impact monies owed to us as offset to purchase FENA. The water and wastewater.
Sure.
Obviously, that's another discussion on which I don't agree with. But it's the mechanism, it's the utilization of the offset. More importantly is that there's an acknowledgement by the federal government that there is money that is owed. So first off, for people to say that they don't owe us the money, federal government acknowledged that. They continue to acknowledge that every year when they provide us the $16.8 million to defray the costs, you know, that we've incurred. So there's a continual acknowledgement. Now, if they say they don't agree with our numbers, we've given them many years to come to the table and let's have a discussion with regards to how the methodology that we use. You want us to use a wise methodology? Guess what? That $540 million price tag is going to increase based on that methodology to somewhere closer to $1 billion. Then what?
Well, I guess, you know, Senator, when our issues are not well represented, if our issues are not continually said or mentioned or represented, I guess we're going to have the same results.
Yes, and you know, and the thing is, if it's at the expense of political expediency, first off, we're non-voting. Okay, let's recognize this. We're non-voting. So if we're non-voting, let's use the power that we have to be able to fully represent.
There we go.
Okay. If the Republican Party really wants me to fall in line with the Republican Party, give me the right to vote. If not, I'm okay.
There we go. Hey,
okay?
we're going to take a quick break. Okay, we'll come back
buddy.
and wrap it up with Senator Frank Blas Jr., candidate delegate to Congress. We'll be right back.